Iowa, Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. Roll call.
Blackwell,
Present.
Campbell,
Present.
Collins,
Present.
Dockery,
Present.
Yelsey,
Present.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dockery, second by Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Number 4, public comment. If there's anybody in the crowd tonight that would like to address anything that is on the or not on the agenda, so that includes the Lancer Run subdivision, now would be your time to do so. Last meeting, we had a special public open session, and that was your time. So I want you to be aware of now is your time to talk if you want to do so.
Your Honor, I see we have students in the seats. Could they identify themselves and give you my honest word? We'll try to be out of here by 10.
If the government kids could please stand up and state their names. What town you're from?
Macy Kozer, Eldridge. I'm Anna Nowak. I'm also from Eldridge.
Chase Edgar from Eldridge.
I'm Russell Squares from Eldridge.
Lincoln Fedovich from Eldridge.
All right, thank you. One more? All right, thank you. So if there's anybody who wants to address the crowd, please come up to the speaker and state your name.
Joel Stedding.
Slide that lever toward you.
There we go. Joel Stedding, Superintendent of the North Scott Schools. Just want to thank you for taking the time tonight again to consider our zoning and property development that we have. Also wanted to let you know is I met with Ryan and Nevada about this street and what the schools and stuff could do and think about the narrowing of the street with the amount of traffic at different times of school events. When we think about what we propose, we meet what your guidelines are, what your rules are, so we hope you support it. We'd also consider looking at having more homes in there if possible. Obviously, our goals are homes for our kids to build, entry-level homes for families, and obviously cost is a big portion of that. The other thing we would look at as part of the development is to make sure there's no short-term rentals as part of the what do you call that? Agreement? The covenants, and then also the amount of family members that can be in the homes, the same as was done in the most recent development here in town. So we could do those two things, which would appease several of the issues that were talked about. And so they're going to be beautiful homes. They're going to fit right into the neighborhood, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the council on Lancer Run at this time? Please state your name.
My name is Shane Edge. Do we need an address or just name?
And address, please.
542 West Valley Drive. Previous meetings have brought up many concerns that several of us in the neighborhood have. Not looking to hammer on too many of those. Those have already been presented to you. A couple of things, though, that I do want to bring up and maybe expand upon a little bit. I respectfully have to say I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say that this whole proposal meets the requirements of the city when you're looking at putting a special residential overlay district over this that basically removes or restricts or gives flexibility to requirements. Well, of course it's going to meet requirements when the requirements have been lessened or removed outright. It's just not right. And even with the proposed overlay, I would just like to say, if my information is incorrect, please clarify, correct me. I'm only speaking to what I can read and research on my own. But it does say in there, Chapter 2, 23.10, about maximum density. It says in there something about 15% over what the underlying district or zoning would have been. And I believe that it's been brought up in the meeting a few times about the maximum number of homes that would be able to fit into this and why they're wanting to do this special overlay. I think they said it was 9 or 10 homes. Well, it says even with the overlay that they can slightly increase the density by 15%. 9 or 10, let's just go with 10, correct me again if I'm wrong, but 10 times 1.15 or 15% overage, rounded up to the next number is 12. They're proposing 16. So even with the overlay that changes the rules and gives flexibility, it talks about 15%. This is even exceeding the 15%. So again, we're changing the rules and allowing stuff to try to fit in here that doesn't otherwise normally meet. It just doesn't seem right. If this thing stood on its own merits and didn't require the special overlay, they would be applying for variances. The rules and everything outlined about what qualifies for a variance, right on here. Desire to make money off of the property. They have to divide this so many ways in order to bring down the cost per lot. If that's not for money, I don't know what is. It also talks about not being able to cause increased congestion on public streets, increased fire danger, not impair light and air. Well, the entire west side of the property is 272 feet. It's going to be covered in 242 feet. How does that not restrict? I'm out of time. Thank you.
I can address those comments when you're calling me.
Jeff, could you?
I mean, we can, when we get to that part of the agenda,
Yep, okay.
I'll address it.
Is there anybody else at this point would like to come address the council on Lancer Run? Please state your name and address.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dan Riadke, 545 West Valley Drive. I'd like to basically echo Eric's comments. You know, the whole conversation here is about proposing something that's reasonable and acceptable. If it was reasonable and acceptable, you wouldn't have the group behind you with 62 signatures saying, please come up with something better. And that's what the group is asking for. Again, looking at the planned residential overlay, the words are providing a small increase in density. When you go from 9 to 16, that's a 77%. That's hard to consider as small. So, I mean, just simply put, it looks to me like the zoning group is just simply abdicating their responsibility. You should be ashamed. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to address the council on the Lancer Run project at this time? Kim, do you want to come? Please state your name and address.
Kim Wilkins, 305 South 6th Street. I'm a property owner on the west side of this division here. Could I read a letter from Mike Frost? He's a neighbor. He's not here tonight because of an emergency, family emergency. This is Mike Frost from 221 South 6th Street in Eldridge. This proposed housing development has a number of concerns for current homeowners, many of whom are long time as Eldridge residents. We have supported our community's businesses, schools, and organizations for over 30 years for many of us. Included in this support are our property taxes paid, which support the North Scott School District. The fact that we are now here trying to defend our properties and quality of life concerns us a bit of an oxymoron, especially if our tax dollars were used to purchase this land parcel from the church for $500,000. North Scott District won the lottery on this 3-acre purchase for only $500,000, almost a gift from the United Pentecostal Church of Iowa Group. As Joel Studding quoted in the North Scott Press October 22nd, 2022 issue a few years ago, this fell into our lap. It sure did. It was a great deal, and as most people would agree, any proceeds from should be reinvested in the students and school district needs. However, out of this entire development with 16 units to be built, only 4 will be built by the students, primarily due to the single-family homes being 1-story but builds. The North Scott School District wields a lot of power and influence in this community and is rarely denied, if at all, in their request. thing is, what may be presumed good for the schools and in building Lancer's Run does not align very well with the current homeowner's situation and desires, which leads to my concern. A number of us live along the west side of the Platte where two four-unit plex condos are to be built. Each building is approximately 145 feet along with an additional 10 feet gap easement between them and 10 feet on the ends also. Added all together, it requires 300 feet, or put in perspective, 100 yards, the length of a football field. This spans the width of the entire development parcel, having two additional 10 feet gap easements on the ends. Pretty tight fit. The more existing concerns are the buildings proposed are to be 2 stories high, giving an immediate boxed-in feeling and complete obstruction of all and any views to the east. Remember, this is 100 yards wide, so it will appear as a huge long wall, at least 20 feet high as the gutters, and will block out any morning sun. Another huge concern is having eight new 20-foot, at least 20-foot. Go ahead.
There, right, okay. I'm Linda Olson. I'm also on the west side, neighbor between Kim and Mike Frost. And so we knew this was going to take a little longer than 3 minutes, so I'm going to continue. Remember, this is 100 yards wide, so it will appear it's a huge long wall, at least 20 foot high at the gutters, and will block out any morning sun or any other view. Another huge concern is having 8 new families, 16 to 32 people, now living in a very close proximity, where for 30 years, 40 for others, there was none. The greater potential for a rise in noise, less privacy, more congestion. This is definitely a quality of life issue, and in our view will negatively impact our current neighborhood and possibly our property values, and it's a big concern. Something none of us wanted or ever expected here in Eldridge when we purchased our homes. Any homeowner in their right mind would never agree to or want something like this project crammed so closely to their property lines. It is an overbearing structure presence. We are absolutely opposed to any 2-story buildings being built. Other existing homeowners, neighbors around the perimeter of this proposed project also have some very legitimate concerns. Traffic congestion, pedestrian, student safety, yard basements, sump pump pit, flooding issues, runoff, water retention, detention control. Also concerns of more than doubling the current block population. 16 proposed units at 2 to 4 inhabitants per unit, that is 32 to 64 people. This project is trying to squeeze in more housing, people, and infrastructure than the space comfortably allows for. This creates more high-density issues as mentioned. The 3 4-plex condo units are being built by Diamond Builders, not by students, due to condos being having a second story and safety concerns. The 4 standalone single-family homes are to be built by the students, and since they will be single-story structures. North Scott Schools is the developer, and with the students in mind, why not come up with a better plan to build more single-family homes instead of any overbearing 2-story 4-plex condos? Single-level homes should also allow the students to participate in buildings construction process. Maybe single-level condos that are either single or double duplex units instead of 4-unit 2-story massive dwellings. Something with a smaller footprint, designed to fit in a 3-acre space better with a little more breathing room and less population density. Some of the homes in the Rustic Ridge Golf Course area come to mind. Okay, family units plus all the necessary infrastructure needed to support the development into a little 3-acre space. Just because it can be made to fit does not mean it should be done if the current plans can negatively affect existing residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council right now? Now is your time. Please state your name and address.
I'm Dawn Spring. I live at 546 West Valley Drive. I have a little diagram. Can I present that to the council members?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, this rezoning proposal, you're hearing, doesn't make sense for several reasons. While we support the single-family home development and we obviously support the student home program, this rezoning only allows for 4 student-built home sites. So who's really benefiting? The 2-story villas in Ivy Acres are not selling. Young families want single-family homes. Retirees want 1-story condos. So why rezone in order to build 12 2-story units that are not marketable? What happens to the marketability of those 4 small student-built homes squished between undesirable 2-story villas? Who's really benefiting? What has been done to explore their options, keeping the zoning as it is, R1 and R2? Here's one idea that allows space for 7 student-built home sites. The new street, South 5th Place, would be shorter, and easements between existing homes and any new homes would be more desirable. These changes would create more space for berming, landscaping, and better water diversion. The added green space would create a more inviting neighborhood that better meets the needs of all parties involved. If we're really looking to create a neighborhood that truly supports the student-built home program and respects the existing community, then this R3 rezoning proposal should not be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else would like to address the council? Please state your name and address.
Larry Schroeder, 612 West Valley Drive, Eldridge. Yeah, I don't want to rehash all the issues really, but there was something said at the last meeting that had a concern of mine because of like, why are we here? And it was, I heard 3 of the council members say that all the paperwork is done properly, so we need to pass, basically I heard we need to pass it. And based on my research, I don't see that. This is why we're here, is to make sure that the paperwork gets you here. The paperwork to me doesn't get approved, automatic approval by the council. And I mean this with all due respect. I mean, I know some of you guys are new, maybe have never gone through this, but everything I've read does not say that this should be automatic. And I also heard a comment about litigation, and it looks to me like litigation could happen either way, but hopefully we never get that far. So again, it's just maybe something needs to be clear as to what is the correct responsibilities here. I got to admit, I went to the plan and zone meeting, and I think there was some confusion there, what their role really was to get it here. And so again, just some clarification maybe before the vote. So thank you.
Is there anyone else at this time would like to address the council on the Lancer Run project? Please state your name and address.
Jim Perkins, 530 West Valley Drive in Eldridge. Some people might mainly talk about everything I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to skip that part. But what concerns me is 2 things. Section 2 of repealer in the proposed ordinance. We don't even know what they're going to repeal. There's not a list of what they're going to repeal. Just if they decide it needs to be repealed, or is it going to just go away? Like the variances, the zoning, not the zoning, the variances, the setbacks, and so forth. I'm not quite sure if I agree that 350,000 to 400,000 is an affordable starter home. And then as far as the water, nothing seems to going to be done about the water going through the back of the yards, out into the street, and to cure that problem. The city was out there once a year or 2 ago to look at it, and then nothing was done. And there's one more. I guess that's it.
Thank you. Is anybody else would like to address the council about the Land to Run project? Now is the time. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for addressing the council at that time. We'll move on to number 5, Mayor's Agenda. 5A, consideration to approve the council minutes from the November 18th, 2024 meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dockery, second by Yossi to approve the minutes from the November 18th council meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. 5B, consideration to approve the bills payable as presented. Does anybody have any questions at this time on the bills payable?
Mine were all answered, but I just want to note this Ford was for 2 trucks. One was city side, one was utility side, so it all works the way it's supposed to.
Okay. Dan, do you have any questions?
No issues, sir.
Item answer today.
Adrian?
I have no.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the bills payable then?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Blackwell, second by Collins to approve the bills payable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. 6A, Resolution 2024-30, approving the City of Eldridge purchasing policy and procedure manual. Vatican calling you.
Thank you, Mayor. So this resolution is just the step that the council will need to take when, if and when they are ready to pass a purchasing policy and procedure manual. Today you did get an updated memo and 2 amended versions of that policy and procedure manual. So there are some changes made to both of them. Councilman Dockery proposed some changes. We can walk through those if you guys have questions on that. The first draft that you received, the changes just reflected what were discussed in the past meetings with the council. The changes on pages 2 and 3 were based on the January 1, 2025 thresholds that are set by the state. And then also the approval level with the administrator from 5 to 14,999, and then city council 15,000 and above. Also on page 6 for the competitive sealed bid procedures, our engineers use the Plan Rooms, Rapids Reproductions, Iowa League of Cities, and Master Builders of Iowa. We also publish those bids routinely on our in the North Scott Press. Just noting that the local preference policy on page 5 is part of Iowa Code 23A.3. That's just stating that every public agency needs to have that local preference policy in place for purchasing. Then going back to page 10, for employee reimbursements, I did include some extra verbiage in there that reimbursements to be used as a last resort when an employee is unable to use their city credit card for any unanticipated reason. That would be when those allowable expenditures are able to be reimbursed with the proper documentation and receipts.
Sure.
Mine's the other version. And Nevada's changes this afternoon as far as verbiage. I don't disagree with them. But what I did is going through the threshold, I changed them all, reduced them. So department head, you'll see they have the ability up to 2,500. Now this is separate from emergency engineering that we've already approved, giving them authority of 5,000 a year ago. City administrator, I have from 5,000 to 7,500. And then, well, city administrator up to 5,000, then from 5,001 to 7,500 can be done with the mayor or council members' signature signing off on it. So there's a check and balance. And you'll see I did that consistent numbers all the way through, whether it was horizontal, vertical construction. I do like that over 5,000, having another elected official sign off as a check and balance. On page 4, contracts, I just reduced that for the amounts of that, so we're not getting up to $24,000 without council approval. Page 5, capital improvement plan, I just deleted that whole paragraph because because something's not on the capital or is on the capital improvement plan doesn't mean the council is given authority to do it. Things could change where funds available have to be transferred to a higher priority. Change orders, I reduced that 15,000 to a maximum of $7,500 with the mayor's approval, another check and balance to the system. I guess it's page 7 of 14. I had a question, request for proposal, the verbiage in there, I think under statutory rules that we have to give it to the lowest responsible bidder unless it's for professional services. Further down on that page, I changed when talking about request for information. I changed the city administrator and city clerk financial office must be included. I changed that to may be included in the event one of them's not available or council chooses otherwise. Sales tax. I have a question in there of utility department. I think some of their things are taxes. And I also, sales tax, if an employee, and I know Nevada's got in hers that they can only use their card in case of emergency, but if an employee does use their card to take benefit of points they earn on their own personal and submit for reimbursement, I don't think the city should have to pay reimbursement, this tax on that, the city wouldn't be charged. Emergency purchases, I got limits on that. The next page, you can see I reduced the numbers to be consistent, I believe, with the earlier numbers. And I eliminated that one paragraph referring to the CIP. Next page, talking about petty cash. I did put a thing in there saying the petty cash must be reconciled daily. So we don't go 2 weeks, month, whatever, and then pay reconciled. Petty cash is something that should be used for simple, small things in the event of short term. But we need to have accountability on the petty cash reconciled. I guess basically I lowered the numbers, the thresholds. I personally don't think anybody should have the authority to spend more than $7,500 without it being presented to the council. It's emergency, phone rings. I know the mayor's in contact with city staff on a daily basis. That's why I put anything over 5,000 in there. He'd have to sign from 5,000 to 7,500. Anything over 7,500, my firm belief that it needs to come before the council. The other changes that Nevada had in the one she sent out at 1:47 p.m. today, I don't disagree with, other than the limits and values. So if we can merge the two together, some aspect, if council agrees with my numbers and check and balances, or, I mean, there's 5 votes here, I'm only one.
I think the idea here was to get a procedure in place that we didn't have one according to our the audit was done. So this can be changed at any time if these values are still too high or if they're too low, but this is a good starting point And there's been a lot of time and effort put into this by both the city administration and some of the council. So I think this really is a good point to start with. And like I said, the numbers can be adjusted as we go. So if everybody agrees that the numbers Brian has provided, or Vada provided his numbers to us, at least this is a starting point that we can actually get this started, and then we can adjust it, and at least that way we are compiling to what the auditors recommended.
Again, I want to thank you for your work that was done on this as well. Brian, with your fiscal expertise.
I don't know about that.
For going through here and your years on the council too, professional development on here. I just want to point out and make sure that I'm understanding this correctly on page 4. It appears to be what Nevada put out on purchases and contracts from 5,000 to 14,999. On your draft version, you have crossed off 5,000 to 24,999.
Where are you at?
On page 4. You see all that and what was sent out via email, it's a lower number, 24.99. So does that change your numbers, seeing that number was lower by $10,000? Does that change any aspects of what was presented?
No, I put that 25. No, I put that $2,500 in there to be consistent with other things. And that's just thresholds, the 2,500, they go out and get the quotes. They can be verbal over that. They should be written. And then once we get over 7,500, it should be 7,501 and more. Then it hits another step.
Brian, thanks for putting this together. Two thoughts on it. The first one, can we have a city council, just one city council member be that sign off, or should it be the mayor and only the mayor? And I bring that up, not only is that legal, or are we pitting against each other? If we've got a council, which we all seem to get along decent, but if you have a council that's got people that don't get along, and then that administrator's always going to the one that aligns better, so that could be avoided by changing that to the mayor only?
It could be. I was just looking at the check and balance. What if something comes up and the mayor's out of town? Whether you make it the mayor a council member or the mayor pro tem. I just think the flexibility needs to be there in the event the mayor is absent. And I truly think it needs to be an elected official. We're the ones that are the stewards of the taxpayers' money. So I don't care whether you say elected official in there, or mayor pro tem, mayor, or a council member that's on the finance committee, something.
Mayor, what's your thoughts on that?
I noticed that earlier today, talking to Nevada just briefly about that. You know, your guys' power as a group, there might be a rare occasion that I am out of town, but that's why we have a mayor pro tem, in case I wouldn't be here, would be sick or something. So I think to put it as the mayor pro tem, probably be better than putting it as a council person, because you guys together have the power as 4 or 5 whoever's at the meeting, not one individual councilman. Does that make sense, Allison?
I would agree with that.
And that's up to 7,500. Anything over that has to go to the full council.
Yeah, and the only other thing I was going to mention is Again, I think these numbers might look a little bit light in some places, but I don't have the experience on council of what different type of expenses are encountered, and it's a starting point. We can always change it going forward, so I would support this.
Currently, we have none. I mean, if I'm going to be involved in starting a new policy like this, which we need a policy by the audit, I'm going to start on the conservative side. You know, I'd rather start low, and if we find issues, we can tweak the numbers, or future councils can tweak the numbers. But I don't want to start high, because then you'll really never know.
Agreed. And we check the box of fixing another audit finding problem.
Being compliant.
Yep.
I was okay with Nevada's numbers today, but I'm just as fine with Brian's numbers, and so I appreciate that. I think one of your reasons too is the lower numbers kind of protect city staff a little bit too, is that correct? Is what you shared?
They do protect city staff, and then that range where it requires another signature protects the city administrator.
I also concur with you, Brian. I think this is a good starting point. We need to be compliant. So this is a great starting point. We can go forward after 6 months, even a year, we can say, hey, it's not working for us. Nevada can show us some issues that she's running into, and then we can make a difference at that time.
I agree, it's a starting point, but I also want to reiterate, anytime this body makes policy over one instance, it's normally bad policy. So it depends on what it is.
One last note, I did see that you didn't type it. So did your typing partner fail on you?
Well, I give him credit. He openly admitted that I did not call him, which is a true fact.
So that being said, do I hear a motion to approve this purchasing agreement, resolution 2024-30, with the changes of mayor and council to mayor and pro tem up to the Brian's numbers, and this will be our starting point.
So
Second.
Your Honor, I think we need to incorporate also Nevada's comments she put together, you know, in the back
Yes,
of her,
Nevada.
adding that verbiage, so, you know, maybe she can combine those and some of the things that I added, just to kind of blend them together, and I think that'd be a good starting point.
Do we want to approve it the next?
Then do you want to wait till the next meeting when you see the blended copy, or are you comfortable with approving it, knowing that'll happen?
It doesn't matter, I mean, it's on the record here, the numbers I stated, my changes, and what Nevada stated in her changes.
All right, then the motion will be to approve resolution 2024-30 with a blended copy of Nevada and Brian's, with Brian's financial numbers, and a change of mayor and council to mayor and mayor pro tem. Okay. Make a motion to that.
A motion.
Second.
Motion by Yossi, second by Blackwell. Roll call.
Yossi,
Aye.
Dockery,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Blackwell,
Aye.
Resolution 2024-30 approving city purchase policy procedure manual passes. 7A, consideration of the first reading of ordinance 2024-15, rezoning 206 and 208 South 5th Street to R3 multiple family residential with a planned residential overlay. Jeff, can I call on you for that?
Yes, Mayor. I'll start by addressing some of the comments from the residents this evening. We had talked about the density issue in the past, and I thought I explained it, but maybe I didn't explain it well enough. So the planned residential overlay, or the PRO, has been part of city code for I don't know how long. I've been with the city for 2 years. Brian has been with the city for over 20 years. If Brian doesn't remember approving that part of the ordinance and putting it in the code, it's been on the books for over 20 years. So Whether people like it or don't like it, the fact is, as part of city code, this council has the opportunity to change that if they don't like it. But it's my job to look at these submissions and compare them to city code and let the council know whether they meet or do not meet city code. Honestly, if it doesn't meet city code, it wouldn't even be in front of you because it would be rejected by city staff prior to getting to this table. So it does meet it. When they're comparing the density, what Mr. Edge stated would be true if you compare it to an R1 district, maybe even an R2, I didn't do the math. But the PRO is going over the top of the rezoned district. It's going over the top of an R3 district. So they're asking for the rezoning. And then the PRO is a planned residential overlay district. It overlays the district that's underneath of it. In this case, if it's rezoned, that would be R3. This is not an increase in R3 density. It's actually, they could have a much more density than this. We've got an R3 property that's behind the Amoco station on 6th Avenue that has a 30-unit and a 20-unit apartment building on it. That piece of property is not much bigger than this at all. So the density could be much greater than what it is in an R3 district, which is what they're proposing to rezone it to. Does anyone have any questions on that? Is it clear that the PRO does meet the density requirements that they're asking for?
Jeff, just a question. It's currently zoned R1, R2?
Yeah, it's a weird, the back half of the property is zoned R1 and the front half is zoned R2. It's the same parcel. I don't know why it has split zoning. That's not something that would be allowed now. I don't know when that happened, but it is zoned R1, R2.
Can you explain for everyone's benefit what's allowed in R1 and R2?
Yes, I can. So an R1 would be single family housing and R2 would allow a duplex or a two-family house. And then an R3 would allow anything above that. I believe we allow up to 6 houses attached together in our city code. And apartment buildings, I'm not sure exactly what the limits are on those.
But currently, under the current zoning, they can build single-family homes and duplexes.
They could build single-family homes on the back 3/4 of the property. I believe the line's about the backyard of the houses next of the house to the north right now that cuts to the south. It's kind of a weird, like I said, I don't know how. They'd maybe be able to get one duplex on the front part of the property. The way it's laid out right now, I don't think they could get any more than one duplex on it, the way that it's currently laid out. I will say the petition that was, sorry, I'm finding a call here. So the petition they turned in at the last meeting was valid. If this were to pass, it would require a 4 out of 5 council members to vote yes for it to pass. And that's what the petition did.
Would that require a supermajority on both the zoning and the planned overlay district?
That would just be for the rezoning. Because that is in the zone, well, it says that we're getting legal, but that's a good question. The city code does say to.
It's just for rezoning.
It is just rezoning? Okay, all right. There we go. There's questions about the repealer. The repealer is standard language. It's just in every ordinance that passes. It's just saying that if there's something that contradicts in the current ordinance that's still in the city code, that's a repeal. That's what that means. It's standard language. It's in every single ordinance that passes. or that is brought in front of council. I think that was everything that came up. I guess the recommendation of the staff has not changed because what was presented substantially meets the city code and it meets the comprehensive plan. The city staff recommends approval. This was voted unanimously upon by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I mean, it's clear that the residents living in the area don't like the development, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on who you are, I don't believe that any of the arguments presented so far have articulated a legal reason why the development should not be approved. And as I said, I mean, there's much larger developments that could be put on R3 property. So taking that into account, I think this is a good use of the space available.
Colin and Joe. Joe mentioned that you're possibly looking at build a few more student-built homes back there, which obviously there's only X amount of land in the plan that you first presented. So I realized you need to see if this zoning would get approved before you invest money for a new plan. But can you comfortably tell the people around you, like approximately how many more houses you're considering or financially know that you could put back there?
We wouldn't be adding any more. We'd have to eliminate one of the duplexes or one of the quadplexes to put in 2 homes.
So you'd be putting in 2 additional from the first plan that was presented?
2 additional homes, but 1 less quadplex.
Right, that's what I mean. So you would now be building 6 student-built homes.
Correct, yeah. And until we get it rezoned and we know what we can actually work with, it's hard to predict that.
And would that be going on the western edge of the property?
We will have to take a look at that. Obviously, quadplex behind a current apartment building makes a lot of sense.
Right,
so we should look at all of those reasons.
Sure, but it is one of the things, just for the people that are here tonight, is removing one of them ones on the western border a possibility?
It's a possibility.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Until we don't find numbers. I mean, that's.
No, I understand. I just wanted the people here tonight to understand that you guys are listening to what they have to say. There was a meeting with the city last week, also with the school, to address the traffic and parking issue, and an idea has been floated for several years to address that little grass boulevard to continue gets beat up every year from donuts with dads and muffins with mom and whatever they have with grandparents and everything over there. You know, possibility of removing the grass with gravel and blacktop, or tearing it all out and put possibly a wider cement bike path with a dedicated stripe painted on it, something that all has to be worked out. But there was a meeting that took place last week to start the discussion of that with the school on what can be done to address the parking and traffic on South 5th Street. With that being said, do I hear anybody entertain making a motion on ordinance 24-15?
Mayor?
Yes.
Before we move forward on this, I heard a couple of times tonight, and a lot more about five times when this was first presented to us. Concerns from the community members regarding the 10 feet in between. If I look at the preliminary plots here, it looks like there's like a 30-foot setback, plus the 10, which would give 40 in between. I just want to make sure that if Jeff or if Joe or maybe Colin could address that, just to be certain.
That's the one that the resident presented to you is the one that's in front of you right now. The preliminary plat presented by the developer has 30 feet in the backyards, but on the 2 fourplexes on the west side, those are considered side yards, and there's a 10-foot setback on each of those on the preliminary plat presented by the developer currently. That everything allowed in the preliminary plat is allowed with the planned residential overlay. It's part of city code. So it does meet city code.
Exactly, Jeff, but there is 30 feet.
Well, if you're looking at this one, this is the one that this is what the residents proposed. This was presented to you by one of the residents today. So if they went with this, it was developed by the resident and not their designer, then yes, there's 30 feet on each side.
Okay, gotcha. I thought there was discussion with the builder and Colin, and you can, if you need an address or anything, but my understanding that it was going to be a lot more space, so.
I haven't seen what they presented yourself.
So the rear yard setbacks are 30 feet for every single home that's proposed in there.
That's my understanding.
Okay, the city code requires a 5-yard or a 5-foot side yard setback for every development that's out there. Okay, so for those of the surrounding homes that are around there, some of them are at 30, some of them are at 12 of the existing homes already. So they already encroached, they far surpassed what they should have been allowed to do years ago. That is what it is. All of those that have encroached into this property where they shouldn't have been, all of those homes that would back up to those have an additional 30-foot side or rear yard setback. The homes that have that abut up to, or the properties that abut up to the two different flanking ends that have the 10-yard or 10-foot side yard versus a 5-foot, which is allowed in any addition whatsoever. We have 10-foot. They have a 30-foot setback in their yards. So these homes would sit a total of 40 foot away. Okay, does that make sense? Does that clear that up? Does that help clear that up?
That was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure that I understood and
yeah,
that you had opportunity to dispose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Where that is close, because we're not in the business of profiting off of the land by any means whatsoever. We're trying to develop this at pure cost. Okay, and if somebody who's abutted up to that 10-foot side yard setback, if they are wanting to buy that parcel to make it a 4-plex, to make it a 3-plex instead, more than willing to do that, surpass any kind of profit to build the home, but it helps the product move forward for the students to be able to sell the homes at the right, and get the land at the right rate. We would be more than willing to do that.
Right.
You know, just throwing that out there. Right. So that's something to consider also. Again, we don't know what that cost will be yet because we're still trying to figure out how many homes we have that. But if that answers your question.
And the largest one right now, our code says they can go up to 6, but it's only been proposed as 4.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. So. And again, 5-foot side yard is what's required in every development. We're advocating for a 10 in this also.
And your drawings looked very nice. What was proposed?
Yes, sir.
Has the community, has the neighbors seen those replicas yet?
We've tried to show them around. We've shown them to several, but not everybody's seen them.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Okay.
Frank, this issue is more complex than just straight zoning because of the overlay district. You know, if you start looking at the requirements of an R3, they could be different than the overlay district. I mean, currently the zoning allows single-family homes and duplexes as it's zoned today. I mean, the question is how does this benefit or harm the city as a whole, the neighbors, traffic, infrastructure? That's what everything should be based on.
So after the last meeting, I reached out to Mr. Studding and I went and met with him. I just kind of wanted to have some conversation on some of my ideas, and I wanted to understand exactly what the intention was here. I understand that this meets all zoning requirements. I understand that it was allowed to make it this far for us to look into, to vote on. And I look at it as a decision I have to make for the city, and I understand what the residents would or would not want in their backyard. At the end of the day, I still have to lean back to what is right and wrong, and I don't know all the answers. I've reached out to people that have the answers or can find the answers for me. Legal counsel for the city has advised that this is all within the code. It was drafted to have this property allowed in the comprehensive plan that was prior to my time. Why it was there, or why it was not removed, if there was not that desire to have it, I don't know, but as it stands right now, it's there. But while meeting with Mr. Studding, I took my city council hat off and I put my citizen hat on, and we kind of talked through some of the ideas. And prior to that, Colin had mentioned that he would be willing to sell some of that land off to make that setback not so bad. But Mr. Studding also talked about the fact that possibly adding another 2 houses and removing one of the fourplexes. And I kind of threw some ideas that I had about possibly leaving the fourplex up towards 5th Street and then just leaving one in the center down below again. At the end of the day, this is outside of my pay grade. This is me offering some opinions and advice, but I still fall back on what is the responsibility of the city? What was I responsible for doing tonight or when we do make that vote? And I look at what is here, what we've been advised to do, and I don't see a reason that we cannot pass this as it stands. In regards to the congestion traffic issues, that was the main reason I wanted to meet with Mr. Studding. And one of the things that was thrown out was they've been talking about the problems on 5th Street for 20 years, or 10 years, excuse me. That's something that was there before this was even a concept. So I wanted to address that. I wanted to meet with him, and through that meeting, we came up with some ideas that I had. He, reached out with some of the ideas he had. We then set up a meeting with Nevada, and we met with her, I think it was the following day or two, and we had good conversations. And throughout that conversations, we came up with a plan moving forward that, again, this may not be popular, but it still brought forward another issue that we need to deal with, and that's 5th Street and the congestion. So we laid out some benchmarks of how we want to move forward. Part of that, like the mayor was saying, is setting some parking on the sides of the streets. The city administrator reached out to Zach, the city engineer, and he's going to be looking at the entire South 5th Street there for not only long-range fixes, but then some short-term fixes as well that get us by. And I do all that not only because it's important to what's been a problem for 10+ years, but if this Lancer run does pass, that will hopefully alleviate some of the concerns of that additional traffic there. There was also studies done before and after school on how bad that congestion is and how long that lasts. So again, if that was in my backyard, I would not want that either. So I understand 100%. Unfortunately, I feel like my hands are tied as to what I would want and what is right according to how the city's laid out the zoning and comprehensive plan, and I think it's going to be difficult to not allow this to go through. I do hope, I know Colin, you and Joe are talking, I hope that you guys can come up with maybe some better ideas that might ease some of that pain. I applaud you guys for at least listening and trying to change things up, but I do understand at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents. And you've got to make it work or it's a loss. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I would agree with you, Brian, on almost everything you said. I really appreciate the passion of the residents. We've listened to you, and I've taken copious notes of everything that you've said. I know a lot of you personally, and that's why this is difficult. I would consider some of you friends, and that's a difficult thing. I remember when I ran for election a year ago, I said that I would definitely, there would come a time when I would upset people. And I would upset people that I consider friends. And there would be a time that I would disappoint people that I consider friends. And I don't take that lightly. but I think this is gonna be one of those times. Like I said last time, we determined that we wrote the playbook on this with our comprehensive plan, and it's been out there since 2011, and the school district played by the rules. And as I went through this, my only real concern was the traffic congestion on Fifth Street, and I commend Ryan and Joe for, meeting to start talking about that. That's a positive thing. I really like the school's willingness to maybe change their plans. And I really do think they're trying to be a good neighbor. I think they want that. And I have to have confidence that they will do that. Like Ryan says, I really don't see a reason that we can't approve this. Would I want this in my backyard like him? Probably not. My only comparison is when I lived up on Sheridan Drive, it was a dead end. There was no housing to the west, and I loved it. There were my daughter could play in the street with her friends, had a cornfield, could view the sunset, and it was awesome. And then came the development, and we lost all that. And change is sometimes difficult. And I look at the same way where I live now on Tombergs, the people that live on South 8th, they had this beautiful pasture to their west for a long time. And they could see forever, and there are cows in their backyard, which was a good thing. And then a developer came along and developed the homes where I now live. And that took away some of their view, and it changes things. And I really get that, I really do. But putting on our city council hat, I think Ryan's on the right track there. And I think that our hands are kind of tied, and I will support this.
It's hard for me, you guys, because I work for a developer. I work for someone that knows the dollar and cents to this. He knows what it takes to put something like this up. I looked at your plan here that you gave us tonight. I love it. I think it's great. But what your development here tells me is they're going to be at a $225,000 loss that they have to put into each house. One of you have said that $350,000 to $400,000 are ready for a house. Is that really a starter house? Well, I'll tell you, Colin builds a good building, and he has a few buildings here downtown that look really nice. He's in Clinton. It looks really nice down there. He's really developed a lot of it, and it looks nice. I saw the pictures. I wouldn't be upset if that was in my backyard. I think it's going to help your value. As far as the water goes, we put up the 55 units at Grand Meadows, and we don't have any water issues because we followed the plan. We followed the 100-year plan that directs the water where it needs to go. Everything was put into it, brought into the water retention pond, and then where it needed to go. And we don't have any water issues at all. Before, Genesis had our water, and they had one heck of a time trying to get rid of that water. And I couldn't, fathom how it's going to help them, for putting up these 2-3-story buildings. Well, we followed the plan, and we followed the people that knew what they were doing. You're dealing with Colin and Joe Study here, and they're telling you that they want to work with you. They didn't just say, hey, you know what, we're going to put up a big duplex and there's nothing you can do about it. They're listening to you. They're going to try to make it what's right. So I live behind Dahmen Farm. I have a beautiful backyard, just like you guys have had for years. But someday that's going to be developed, and there's probably nothing I can do about that. But you know what? I enjoyed the 17 years that I've lived there now. So I'm with Ryan. I really need to support this just because it is our playbook. The P&Z has approved it, and this is our number 1 of number 3 that we have to agree to. So tonight I'm going to have to agree to it. But yet I've taken many notes, just like Scott has, and if we find something that we don't like, we'll bring it up at the next meeting when it comes around for round 2.
Count on me for being odd man out. My concern is traffic on Fifth Street, public safety. Always has been. Our last meeting, even I remember it was Mr. Study or Mr. Collins got up and said, yeah, we know there's a problem there, but we didn't create it. Bottom line is this ground right now is currently zoned R1, R2. You take the fourplexes out of it, they can build single-family homes and duplexes right now. Without making money on it. It's not for me to question how the program, excellent program, student-built homes works. However, they should have the ability to make it profitable, break even, more so than anybody else. Their labor's reduced. They get all kinds of donations. They get trades helping them on the projects. You know, to me, I cannot support this until there's something agreed upon controlling the traffic on South Fifth Street. We can all say we're going to look at it, but if we don't do anything, we're just adding to a problem that we already know is there. To me, that's not smart. If they go in and build, they have the ability to build single family and duplexes right now. The only thing that allows the fourplexes or possibly a sixplex is changing the zoning to R3. That's our one issue first here tonight, is voting on changing it to R3. I agree with our comp plan. It's just a guide for the future. If we do change the zoning, that's what it recommends. If we don't change the zoning, they can still build single family and duplexes. There's got to be a reason. Public safety to me is a big one on Fifth Street there. The question was brought up of cul-de-sac on the end with emergency services. That can probably be moved around the water. Townsend Engineering does a good job. They're good at what they do. But what really comes down to is the fourplexes. That's the only reason they need an R3 zone. The only reason. Otherwise, they can build duplexes and single family as it's currently zoned. I can't support this until there's assurances, whether it's a signed agreement, who's going to do what on Fifth Street. Now we go through 3 readings, so that's going to take 6 weeks. Can that get done in that time frame? Maybe. But if it's not done, I cannot support this.
I'm just trying to wrap up here. Thank you for the extra input on here. So I do appreciate that. For the community members that come back out with that. Again, I'm the one who tabled this, so I can digest, I can ask questions and give community members and also those involved the opportunity to reach out to me as well. There's been a few. I thought that there would be more. Also, we received legal advice from our city attorney. I was able to digest that as well. So that, I think that helps with the decision as we move forward here. There's just different elements on here. Looking at student safety too, with these student-built homes, they don't have to worry about driving to outlying areas. So we do have to consider that as well. New teachers coming in, looking for something that's a little more affordable, starter homes for families there. I think it's a good selling point, having it that close by the schools, on that radius, on that block. It's very ideal. But you know, I do appreciate those concerns that's been brought up, you know, and they continue to be brought up. I was just hoping that there, and you know what, maybe there was, because I wasn't involved, you know, in between, and I was hoping there'd be more dialogue between the residents and the school district and the proposed builder. Maybe there was, but that was opportunities to say, hey, you know, this is what I would like to see, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, okay, thank you, you know, working together. I think the school district's always been a good neighbor, but continue to be a good neighbor. And, you know, the center core is here in Elbridge. We're going to grow, like it or not. I'm a little perturbed that I can't see the air show like I used to in years past. Well, with growth, that's what you had. I'm over that now. But you know, for the benefit of our community, you know, we have to do what's best for our community, standpoint with our growth here, and do realize that the Elbridge is evolving, and it shall continue to evolve. No matter, you know, who's here and who's not, it's going to evolve. And with the email that was sent out by our legal counsel, that helps with clarification as we're moving forward. And nothing can be done, no modifications can be done, nothing else can be done or worked out with the community members and the school district until this essentially is approved. And those modifications can be made and can be changed in the budgets accordingly. And I hope there's continued dialogue with that as well. So we're here, you guys elected us, we're here to make tough decisions, but again, we are for both parties and trying to make this as easy and pain-free as possible to benefit the whole community. So not just Eldridge, but the whole entire community moving forward with great working relationships for our partners and for our families.
I just want to make one more comment, Brian, to your concern with district congestion, and I can appreciate exactly where you're coming from. I have personally taken this on, and I can, on record, give you my word that I'm not just going to let it fall between the cracks. I am very much against things getting discussed and then forgotten about. So that is something that I'm adamant about, and I will push forward. I'm going to need everybody's help from the council to do that. Nevada, could we expect an update from Zach maybe by next meeting on what the status of him getting more information is?
We have a meeting set up, I believe it's Wednesday, either Wednesday or Thursday of this week, to touch base and walk through that area and look at the different options and kind of give you an idea of how to move forward and looking at what potential solutions could be. So we should have an update from him at our next meeting.
Great, thank you.
I'm a results guy until I see the results. Anybody can say we're going to do this. At the end of the day, Fifth Street's going to cost, just round estimates, to fix that portion of it, $500,000, round numbers. Let's get back to the fact of zoning. It's my understanding, and only my understanding, that we do not have to rezone things. If it states if we do rezone it, then we have to be in compliance with comprehensive plan. But my understanding is just because it's out there, we do not have to rezone it.
John Collin, I have one more question for you guys. This is gonna be, even if you guys can modify the plan to build a few more student-built homes, these will be built as a built and sold type of operation, correct? You're not just gonna go in there and blow out a whole subdivision right away. So this could take years, and that'll give plenty of time to address the traffic and parking on South Fifth Street.
That was one of the things that we said we'd add into there, that they wouldn't be short-term rentals, right? And you can do some of those limiting things. Originally, the quadplexes would probably built fairly quickly. We would take at least one house per year, so it depends on how many homes we get into there. And I know since I'm here, R2 can be more than just a duplex, correct? I mean, it's been stated twice that we could only do duplex on the current zoning. That's not true with R2, is it?
R2 is two-family, so that's what R2 means. So only a two-family
There's
home.
an apartment.
A duplex could be built on
Just duplex on R2? So what's the apartments then that are next to us?
R3. Both of the parcels south of you are
Southwest are R3? Okay,
They
thank you.
are
I
R3,
appreciate
yep.
that. Yeah, I was thinking it was R2 too. Thanks.
Yep.
So Joe, don't go away yet. If my memory is correct, at our last meeting, you stated that, or maybe it's Colin, that the complete build-out would be in 4 years.
Well, the complete build-out for ours would take 4 years. So potentially it would be 4 years if we would have one per year, that'd be 4 years to be complete build-out, correct?
So the fourplexes would be built
Right away.
right away?
So based off of selling and things like that. I mean, again, we haven't established the actual partnership yet. This is the district asking for R3. I know I have Colin here helping us get through this process, but our board still has to develop that total partnership through there. But nothing can go through. It's really simple. For us to build a house that we call entry level, you can't do it on any type of design, any type of 7 homes or anything like that, unless somebody wants to throw in a lot of extra money to bring that cost below $100,000 a lot just isn't doable. And so that's why we're looking at the private partnership. The district's done this a lot. I mean, we weren't in the fitness business, and we got in the fitness business with the Y. We look for partnerships. This is one of those kind of partnerships that makes sense for the school district and the taxpayers to be able to do something for our program and get it done at a reasonable rate and build entry-level homes.
So back to my original question, it'll be built out in 4 years.
Potentially 4 years. Again, I couldn't tell you how fast things sell, right? But I have a house we're building in Long Grove that's much more expensive than we want at $450,000. If for chance that wouldn't sell, we may not be in the position to build a house next year. We could have to skip a year until that sells. That's one of our problems, is paying for the kind of lots we have to pay now makes us build expensive homes. And this interest rate in this market, it's a little bit more of a gamble than it was when it was a 2.5% interest rate. And so, again, it's about all those factors you take into consideration that led us down the path of forming a private-public partnership. Something we should be proud to do, to me, as a public entity, as a public official. You know, you look for those type of opportunities. It just happens to work out for us for this situation. On our own, this situation probably will not happen for us to build there.
Well, typical lots in the newer neighborhoods are 0.24, 0.20 acres. So this is roughly 3 acres. So with infrastructure, you can get 12 homes in there, single-family homes, roughly.
Not to meet the setback distances. Because of this is an odd piece of property, you wouldn't be able to meet the setback distances that we have. You'd be able to deal with a PRO over the top possibly.
So what happens if the zoning is approved and the development plan is not?
Yeah, that could happen.
Joe, that 4-year for completion was based upon the original design with 4 student-built homes. So if you guys squeeze in 1, 2, or 3 more houses.
6 years.
Right, then it would be 6 years.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? All right, well, at this point then, I'm looking for a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-15 rezoning 206 and 208 South Fifth Street to R3 multifamily residential with a planned residential overlay.
That's a whole different vote for the planned residential, isn't it?
No, it's written, it's combined.
Yeah, it says the city code says to handle the planned residential overlay like a rezoning. So, I mean, you could, at your option, I guess you could separate it. I mean, you're the council, right? I mean,
The request for rezoning is with the planned
Is with the
residential,
planned
the rezoning
residential.
with the planned residential overlay as a rezoning request.
yeah,
Leave it as it stands.
that's the request.
That's the request and that's the motion right now.
I'll make a motion for the first reading of ordinance 2024-15 rezoning 206 and 208 South Fifth Street to R3 multiple family residential with a planned residential overlay.
Second.
We have a motion by Yossi and a second by Campbell to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-15 rezoning 206 and 208 South Fifth Street to R3 multifamily residential with a planned residential overlay. Roll call.
Collins,
Aye.
Dockery,
Nay.
Yossi,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Blackwell,
Aye.
That's 4 ayes and 1 nay. The first reading of ordinance 2024-15 for rezoning passes. 7B, consideration of resolution 2024-28 approving the preliminary plot for Lancer Run. So this is the preliminary one, Jeff, so they can bring changes back, correct?
Yeah, the process, so since the rezoning passed with the planned residential overlay, part of a stipulation with the planned residential overlay is that the Planning and Zoning Commission and then the City Council have to approve the construction plans. The development plan, I guess it's called the development plan in city code, but what we would normally refer to as city staff as a construction plan. So that will have to go in front of the Planning and Zoning, or city staff, Planning and Zoning Commission, and then to the City Council to approve. So the preliminary plat is just that, a preliminary plat. The next step would be the final plat. Usually, the only other time I've seen a planned residential overlay, the final plat was presented with the development plan then and the construction drawings. And all that went through city staff and then Planning and Zoning Council at one time. Those two things connected together, just kind of like these two things were connected together. Oftentimes the preliminary plat changes, you know, before you get to the final plat. You guys have probably seen that more than I have. But everything from here moving forward has to be approved by all three of those entities before anything can be constructed. It says the development plan has to be approved by city council before a building permit can be issued for the property.
So what you have in front of you then is a motion to consider resolution 2024-20 approving the preliminary plot for Lancer Run subdivision. Do I hear a motion?
Your Honor.
Yes.
Preliminary plat, which one are we talking about? The one they submitted last time, or the one they described taking a fourplex out and add more student-built homes?
It would be the one that's in your packet that they presented last time. Nothing has changed on the one that's been presented with the application.
But it gives them opportunity to make those changes.
They can make those changes yet before the final plat.
Right, so nothing's set in stone here.
No.
Even if they made the final plat, they could make changes again after that, couldn't they?
Yeah,
They
it would
already
just-
done that.
Sure, yeah.
They would
Yeah,
have to come
it was
back.
done it the last times. So, but no, yeah, they can change it as much as they want to, and you can deny or approve it. I mean, we'll look at it. If it meets city code, we would recommend approval. It would, then come back to you through Planning and Zoning Commission. You guys have the opportunity to, approve or deny at that point.
Right, absolutely. And that's where continued communication will be vital here, moving forward with this too. And just to let you guys know that there's somebody that lives in that area who supports it too. So it was nice to hear back from that, and that's another reason to persuade me to vote that way, that everybody, there's not only opposition, but there's support to this project in the neighborhood. So with that being said, if there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion for a considered resolution of 2024-28 approving the preliminary, mind you, plat for Lancers Run subdivision.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Blackwell, second by Campbell. Roll call.
Blackwell,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Dockery,
Nay.
Gilsey,
Aye.
Your Honor, for the record, the reason I voted nay is I haven't seen what the council just approved. I've seen the original one, but not the updated one, reducing the fourplexes down to more single-family homes.
That's because that has not been presented yet.
I know.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, you don't have anything in your packet that nobody else does. They had to have the zoning approved before they could move forward, because that's an expense that would affect their overall project of their student housing project.
I understand that. The only thing that was approved on the zoning is first reading. There's 1 to 2 more readings of that to go in.
7C, consideration of resolution 2024-29, appointing the Title VI coordinator to the city of Eldridge, Iowa. Nevada, can I call on you?
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a process that we go through with the DOT because we receive federal funds and grant money for different projects. Part of the Iowa DOT is a requirement for Title VI documents as a condition for continuing to receive and be eligible to receive federal grant funds. This came through council, I believe, in 2022 when Tony Roop was the administrator. Anytime there's a change in the mayor or the administration, the DOT will do another visit and another compliance review. If there are no changes in mayor or administration, it is every 5 years that we would do a compliance review. So what the city of Eldridge needs to be compliant with this requirement is to adopt a resolution appointing the Title VI coordinator. So resolution 2024-29 does that. It was previously the city administrator. I went forward keeping that the same. There's also a non-discrimination notice to the public that will need to be posted on our website as well as at City Hall in the vestibule. So that's in your packet as well. And then our Title VI non-discrimination policy statement, which is the last page of that portion of documents, which will also need to be on our website and posted at City Hall for compliance with Title VI requirements.
There may have been a question for Nevada about that.
I make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second? Motion by Dockery, second by Collins to approve resolution 2024-29, appointing the Title VI coordinator for the city of Eldridge, Iowa. Roll call.
Dockery,
Aye.
Gilsey,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Blackwell,
Resolution 2024-29, appointing Title VI coordinator to the city of Eldridge, Iowa passes. Number 8, board and staff activity reports. Nevada, can I call on you first?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick announcements. Our property purchase, the site inspections are underway. We should have a final report available for your review the week of December 12th and are still on track to do our closing the week of December 16th. Holiday hours, City Hall and city offices will be closed on Tuesday, December 24th for a half day and Tuesday, December 31st for a half day. And then closed for a full day on Wednesday, December 25th and Wednesday, January 1st. I did send out a survey monkey to all of the city council and utility board members for the training with the city attorney. It should be about an hour-and-a-half training session. If you have not responded to that yet, please do so we can get that scheduled. We're looking at starting goal setting in mid-January to early February 2025, so I will give you updates on the plan and details for that in the near future. I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Nevada. Jeff, can I call on you now next?
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Budget process, the things gone out to department heads to start that process.
Next week, they will go out, the week of December 9th.
I'll send out budget worksheets to department heads, yes.
Mayor, good night.
Yeah.
Nevada, not this weekend, but last weekend, I drove around the old portions of town, noticed a certain amount of leaves on the ground. I did not get out this weekend. I've been out of town, so I couldn't do a visual. Has there been any citizens approach us by expanding our race, or do you think we're okay for this year and then reconvening later in the spring of next year?
For the drop-off?
Yes.
They did talk about it last week. They were, the last day was scheduled to be this past Saturday, so they were going to kind of see what the weather did this last week and see if there were calls or questions about continuing it and kind of make a plan from there, and if they do decide to extend it, we'll go ahead and put notices out on our city website, Facebook, and everywhere that we can notify the public for that extra time.
That's fair.
Mayor, we have a planning and zoning meeting scheduled in December where we'll revisit the solar ordinance and look at condominium development that Mr. Grunwald's doing with some 3-plex, 1-story condos over by Grunwald Second. You guys should be seeing that probably at the end of the month or maybe early January.
Thanks, Jeff. Martha, do you have anything to report this evening?
I do. The annual finance report is scheduled to be published on December 4th. I sent it out to council members and I didn't get any questions. I'm assuming everybody's okay with it. Okay. And like I stated earlier, department heads will be getting the budget worksheets on the 9th. They might be ready before then, but I mean, I want to just play it safe and, you know, delay it till the 9th. So, yeah, that is it.
Okay. I see Eldridge Finance sitting back there. Do you have anything to report on the police department this evening?
Just 2 quick things. One is officer, she's in her well into her 3rd phase of field training. So we're looking at February, or late January, February timeframe for her to complete her field training. And then the only other thing is we're doing our shop with cop next Saturday at 7 in the morning. We were able to select 7 kids this year to take next Saturday morning, so we're excited about that. So other than that.
Thank you. This is where we'll conclude the regular part of our meeting this evening. We'll be going into closed session, but you government kids, if you have any paperwork you sign, now would be the time to come forward. Anybody at this table can sign your paperwork.
You guys got lucky, you got out of here early tonight.
Just watch the court.
You know, when he lies over, okay?
So we need to vote to go into closed. Before,
How's it going, bud?
What you think about my job?
That's not gonna tell you. You don't have the normal. We have the government.